Hi, everybody. I just wanted to do a brief recording to go over something for chapter 6. So we're going to just go over the periodic inventory system and then the perpetual inventory system, just basically going through examples just to see how it's done. But the first thing we're going to do is determine the cost of goods available for sale, ending inventory, cost of goods sold under FIFO, LIFO, and average cost, using the periodic inventory system. So this is our data. We have January 1st beginning inventory, $100, 100 units at 20 per unit is 2,000. We have a purchase on July 8th of 300 units at $24 per unit, which would be 7,200. And then we have a purchase November 16th, 200 units at 26 per unit, which is 5,200. So if we add our units together, it's 600. And if we add our cost together, our cost of goods available for sale is 14,400. They're telling us we have 200 units in ending inventory, which means the units that we sold are 400. So we have 200 units in ending inventory and we sold 400 units. And that, of course, brings us to the 600. So first of all, calculating the cost of, or we're going to calculate ending inventory under FIFO, which means the first items we purchase are the first items we sell. So we know that we have 200 units left in ending inventory. So since we look at the last items and we work our way back, we do have 200 units that we purchased November 16th. So 200 units times 26 per unit is 5,200. So our ending inventory is 5,200. To figure out our cost of goods sold, we just take our cost of goods available for sale of 14,400, subtract our 5,200 ending inventory, and that gives us $9,200 for our cost of goods sold. Next, we're going to do LIFO. Again, we're still doing periodic. So if we look at this, we want to look at where our inventory is. So we know we have 200 left. LIFO is the opposite, right? In LIFO, the last units we purchase are the first units we sell. So if we're looking for our ending inventory, we're going to start with beginning inventory. And here it's 100 times $20 is 2,000. And then we're going to have 100 units left of this July 8th purchase. So we would have sold 200 of those units. We've got 100 left. So 100 times $24 is 2,400. So if we add that together, 2,000 plus 2,400 is 4,400. That's our ending inventory. To determine cost of goods sold, we're going to take the 14,400 cost of goods available for sale, subtract the 4,400 ending inventory, and that gives us cost of goods sold of 10,000. Next is average cost. So if we look at this, the cost of goods available for sale, which is 14,400, divided by the units available, which is 600, that would give us $24 per unit. So the units in ending inventory are 200 times $24 per unit, which is 4,800. So if I take my cost of goods available for sale of 14,400, subtract my ending inventory of 4,800, I will get cost of goods sold for 9,600. Next, we're going to determine the same thing, but we're going to determine it under the perpetual inventory system. And my numbers are slightly different here. So here I have beginning inventory, 100 units at a cost of 20 per unit for a total cost of 2,000. Then on July 8th, I have a purchase of 320 units at 24 per unit, which is 7,680. If I looked at my balancing units right now, I've got 100 plus 320, that's 420 units. Then I have a sale of 400 units on November 1st. So if I look at my balancing units right now, it's going to be 420 units minus 400 units. That means my balancing units is 20. And then I have a purchase on November 16th of 180 units at 26 per unit, which would be a total of 4,680. So if I looked at my balancing units right now, it's the 20 units I had plus the 180 I purchased for a total of 200. And my total cost right now would be $14,360. The 2,000 plus 7,680 plus 4,680. So looking at first in, first out, the first in, first out method, I'm going to keep track, first of all, of my cost of goods sold as I go along. So right now, my first item is I have a balance of 2,000. That's my beginning inventory, 100 units at 20 per unit. And then on July 8th, I make that purchase. 320 units at $24 per unit is 7,680. So if I look at July 8th, excuse me, if I look at my inventory on July 8th, I've got 100 units at 20 per unit, which is 2,000, plus I have 320 units at 24 per unit, which is 7,680, which means in total, my total value right now is $9,680. My total units are the 100 plus the 320. So if I wanted to know my units right now, it's 420. Now I make a sale. On November 1st, I make a sale. So I'm using FIFO. The first items I purchase are the first items I sell. So I've sold all of this. My beginning inventory is sold. $100 at 20 per unit. That's going to be 2,000. And then I sold out of the second purchase is 320 items. I have sold 300 of those items. And of course, that's at 24 per unit. So if I were to multiply 300 times 24 per unit, that would be 7,200. I'm then adding this sale I made right here, the 100 units at 20, which was 2,000. So 7,200 plus 2,000 added together gives me a cost of goods sold right now of $9,200. If I look, what do I have in my ending inventory? I've got 20 units left, right? And that 20 units I have left is from my purchase, right? It's from this grouping of units. So if I looked at 20 times 24, 20 units at 24 per unit, right now my ending inventory balance is 480. Now I have a purchase on the 16th of 180 units at 26 per unit, which is $4,680. So if I take into account my 20 units at $24 per unit, which is 480, plus my 180 units at 26 per unit, which I figured out right here is 4,680, and I add that together, that's $5,160. So to determine my cost of goods sold, I've got that right here. And to determine my ending inventory, got that right here. So that was FIFO. Now we're going to do perpetual LIFO. So pretty much this beginning part's the same. I got 100 at 20 per unit of 2,000. Have a purchase of 320 units at 24 per unit, which is 7,680. If I add 7,680 and 2,000 together, I've got 9,680 at July 8th, 9,680. And if I looked at my total units, it would be 100 plus 320. Right now I have 420 units total. So now I'm looking at my cost of goods sold. So you have to remember, LIFO works the opposite, right? I'm looking at my cost of goods sold. I'm not going to start at the beginning. I'm going to start with my last purchase. So 320 units times 24 per unit. Let's figure that out right now. 320 times 24 is $7,680. I then have 80 units out of this 100 for my beginning inventory. I sold 80 of them. So I have 80 units times $20 per unit. And 80 units times $20 per unit is 1,600. So if I add 7,680 plus 1,600 together, my cost of goods sold right now is $9,280. Since I've sold 400 units and I had 420, what do I have left? I have 20 units. And remember, it's out of my beginning inventory. Last items I purchased were the first items I sold. So what's remaining in my inventory, it's 20 units at 20 per unit, $400. And I now, on November 16th, I have another purchase, 180 units at 26 per unit, which is 4,680. So if I look at my balance in units and costs, I have 20 units at $20, which is 400. That's from here. Oops, from right here. Then I have my 180 units at 26, 4,680. That's right here. So if I add that 4680 and the 400 together, it would be $5,080. That's my ending inventory. So my cost of goods sold, 9280, is right here. And my ending inventory, 5,080, is right here. Okay, next we're going to do the average cost method or moving average method. I forget what they're calling it in the latest version of the text. But again, beginning inventory, 100 units at 20 per unit, 2,000. Have a purchase on July 8th, 320 units at 24 per unit is 7680. So let's figure out the average cost. Again, I had 100 units, right, of inventory, purchased 320 more. So my total units is 420. If I look at that total cost, it's 2,000 from beginning inventory plus 7,680 for my purchases. So if I add those two items together, that gives me a total of $9,680. If I divide, and I did it right here, if I divide $9,680 by 420 units, that means my units, and I'm rounding here, but they're approximately $23.05 per unit. So on November 1st, when I sell 400 units times 2305 is $9,220 per unit. And again, this is not going to be exact because I rounded, but it's going to be close. What do I have left in ending inventory? I have 20 units at $23.05 per unit. Next item I have, that's $461. Next item I have is a purchase, 180 units, 26 per unit is $4,680. If I add that $4,680 and the 461 I have left over, if I add that together, it is $5,141. So if I take that $5,141, and I do it right here, and I divide it by the 200 units, 20 that was left here, plus my 180 purchase, 200 units. If I divide that out, it's approximately, again, I'm rounding here, but it's approximately $25.71. So my cost of goods sold is right here, $9,220. And you'll notice I made my ending inventory 5,140, whereas here I have it as 5,141. The reason for that is with all this rounding, because I really did round quite a bit, I'm actually off by $1. If you look at my cost of goods sold and ending inventory, it should total 14,360. So I'm going to just drop it by $1 for my ending inventory to make it $5,140, so that my cost of goods sold and my ending inventory added together will equal that $14,360. There are all different ways to do any of these. You don't have to do it this way. You can do it another way. But basically, it's going to work out to be the same thing. You'll get the same results. It's just a different way to attack it. Have a great week, everyone. Hope if any has questions, please reach out to me. Bye, everybody.